The day we found out we lost our home, we were at a hotel in LA, not just our home, but like every single thing. It looked like Pompeii, like over 6,000 houses were gone. It was like an impossible thing to get our head around. And I knew I had to get my family settled. And I leaned on the Jewish community.
Welcome to Mic'd and Medicated. We have Samantha Ettus on the show. Welcome, Samantha.
Thank you.
I
I'm
feel
so
like
happy to be here.
We really have a celebrity here. It's like you jumped out of my Instagram screen. I'm so excited.
Yes, we do. Samantha is a best-selling author. She's an activist. She's a podcast host. She has been on multiple TV programs and done many, many conferences. And she's also had 2 TED Talks. So I don't know how you do it all.
And a mom of 3.
You're a mom of 3.
How are you doing that?
Well, actually being a teen mom is harder than being a mom of young kids. I think it's the most humbling job ever.
I thought you meant being a teen mom, like you were a teenager when you had your kids.
I wish. Then I would be
I was like, wow. I was like, that explains.
So energetic. No.
How good you look.
Doesn't have teenagers yet. So
yeah.
My kids are 6 and 9, and I see I see Eva's teenager, and I'm like, I'm terrified.
Like they're amazing because you suddenly have these 3 like adult friends, but they're also like,
they're tigers.
I wake up and I'm like, what did I do wrong? Or like, what am I going to be asked to do? And you're like, you have like 3 bosses and
I know. I feel like it's living with, I could see, because just you have Eleanor and my daughter's 6, but she's like, acts like a preteen. It's sort of like living with an unhinged person where you're really not sure what's going to set them off. Like,
well, right. Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's almost like my husband feels like I'll take crumbs and I'll be like, oh my God, they like wrote this to me. Like they missed me or whatever it is. I don't want to say which child that would always happen with, but like there is definitely a thing where like you want your kids to want to hang out with you because
100%.
It's their choice once they're 20, once they're 18. I always say like now I feel like parenting is just a constant goodbye. I'm always having to say goodbye to my kids. And I'm obsessed with any minute I get with them because it's like, I just sent my son off. He's my youngest and he went to be a CIT at his camp for 2 weeks. And one of the moms organized a bus and it was like, this is my last camp bus ever. And like all the other moms left except for one. And like, I was sitting there being like soaking in every last second. And I like burst into tears unexpectedly. Like just the moments of like grieving what you're losing is like constant.
Yes. The older they get, the more I am acutely aware of how fleeting the time is with them because you don't have them in your home around every day. And, when they say the days are long, the years are short, you only have the years when they grow up. Like you don't have those kind of long, boring days with them. So you're constantly in this state of grieving.
I know. Now I feel guilty for all the moments I hide in the bathroom on my phone. And I'm like, I'm black blast. I'm like,
just self-protection.
I can't come out. But you guys also both worked full time, right? When you were raising your kids or when they were little or.
Yes, but I feel like I was so lucky because I always had a flexible career in the sense that like I would go away to do a speaking engagement and then I could come back and do all the pickups and drop-offs for a week. So it was really sort of the best of both worlds. I got very lucky in that sense that I built a career that allowed me to do all the things I wanted. But I really believe that so much of how our kids receive us working in the world is how we model it. So I always used to say there's 2 kinds of parents you could be. One is the parent who says, I'm so sorry, I have to go to work and I'm really sorry. And then your kid is bawling, right? Because they see you're upset and you're guilty. Or you could say like, I'm going to go to work and this is who I'm meeting today and this is what I'm doing. And you're going to have such a great day. And I can't wait to share our days with each other at the end of the day.
Oh, I love that.
And then your kid is like excited because you're both having these adventures and you come back and you're sharing your days. And so I used to host a call-in radio show. And when my kids were really little, and it was a weekly show, I hosted it for like 4 or 5 years and people would call me with their problems. And so it was on Thursdays. And on Thursday night at the dinner table, I had 1 3-year-old, 1 3-year-old, 6-year-old, and 8-year-old. And I used to say to them, this was one of the problems someone called with today. I would like make it, a kid-friendly problem. And I'd say, how would you answer it? And we'd go around the table and they would each say how they would have answered.
I love that.
And it's like giving your kids that autonomy to like, and now I have like 3 kids who are like all their opinions and like incredible people who are always enlightening me.
The reason I love that so much is I often have kids at my home and when they talk to each other, oftentimes they have no idea what each other's parents do. Like I'm always amazed that like one girl was really cute. She said, I she sat at my table and she said, I thought my mom worked at Lululemon because she always wore Lululemon. She's like, and then one day she was like, it came up and she was like, I don't work at Lululemon. That's my exercise outdoor.
I feel like that's a New York
Shameful.
thing of like,
Really?
kind of like everybody's so just like driven in the sense where they're very just like almost like a horse with blinders. And like, they kind of don't know how to, I would say, unite both lives. You know, I think it is hard to, some people want that separation of work and life. But I think when you're entrepreneurial, like you are, and you know now Caroline, even I are.
Like,
no, it's insane.
Don't you agree though? There's like a separation. It's like church and state.
I always told the kids what me and my husband did, but I was always amazed how many kids, like even into
I think it's my husband and I.
No idea.
What my husband and I do.
Thank you.
So I know you're Dartmouth, Harvard. I'm just telling you. But speaking of just, I'm going to interrupt because what I really also want to talk about is obviously you both, Eva and Samantha, are complete badasses. I am just figuring out my career and I'm looking up to both of you. But what I think you guys have that I hope I also have is an ability to be open, honest, and be a badass, whether that's at home and at work, but you don't steer from who you are. And I think that people don't want to do that anymore. They're so afraid, especially women. We don't talk about, you know, what we really want to say. I mean, I do, obviously, and Eva does, but you know, that offends people. And I think people actually are offended and turned off because they're jealous secretly.
Yes.
You know, but I want to kind of start with what you've had. Obviously, your whole career has been about helping women and foster and telling them to be kind of confident. But then after October 7th, you kind of switched and you sort of became almost as like Jewish amazing activist. And like this is a big question, obviously, but what do you think was it that made you feel like, I don't care if I lose, you know, speaking engagements or people in Los Angeles don't want to talk to me anymore because it's not cool to be a Zionist, but you stayed true and you just kept going?
Oh, there's so much you just said.
Sorry, that was a very big question.
Oh my gosh, there's so many ways to respond. I really feel so strongly that I've always been someone that is who I am. I'm not hiding. I don't have a facade. I know that some people will love me and some people will hate me. Even before October 7th, when I used to talk to women's groups, which was, you know, my career, I would write books for women and I would, you know, speak to women and go on TV talking about women and women's empowerment. I always used to say to women, when you walk into a room, no matter who you are, 90% of people will be primed to like you and 10% will automatically hate you. Okay.
Ooh. And I might be at the 80% hate me.
I just have an impossible time believing that. And, and by the way, like once you realize that, it kind of frees you up to be like, no matter what kind of people pleaser you are, it's not going to work out for you because you can't please everyone. And it's that whole thing we were talking about earlier, where if you stand for everything, you stand for nothing. Like I've always been attracted to being friends with women who speak their minds. I don't enjoy being with someone. I remember when I first moved to LA, it was so hard for me. I had no friends.
Because you grew up in New York City.
I grew up in New York City.
Yeah.
But like I thought I'm really friendly and smiley. Everyone will want to be my friend. Like I was super, super naive. And we got to kindergarten at this new school. I had no idea that this was like a known as like snobby parent school. No idea, right? Walk in, I volunteer for everything. And they're like, we will let you know. We have elections coming up and we'll let you know if we need any help. And I was like,
no.
Oh, okay. And then you know, thought I was like this one woman I thought was like really friendly to me. I'm like, oh, I think she's gonna be my friend. And then we got to some school event and I realized she's exactly that exact amount of friendly with every other person there. And then I realized that's how LA is. Like everyone, it's generic love. Like everyone treats you the same. And then you never know where you stand with anyone. And it was really hard to figure that out.
New York is the opposite. Everybody, at least I do, starts with like, I probably don't like you. And then I might like you. But that's like, isn't that like a more of a New York mindset?
It's so funny because I think that is a New York mindset.
I feel like you're more like Samantha.
My husband grew up in New York and he always says like, I'm so trusting. He's like, you know, you have to earn his trust. Whereas I'm like, I trust everyone unless they do something to lose my trust. And even that, it used to be very hard to do because I was a people pleaser. I wanted everyone to love me, but I also always spoke my mind. And it's so freeing now that I realize what you just said. Not everyone's going to like you, because I used to stay up at night worried about the people who didn't like me, or wondering if I could do something different to make them like me. And it's such a waste of mind space, because to your point, it doesn't matter whatever you do.
Those are not your people.
And I'm wondering, like, if everyone was generic love before, like on October 8th, where you used your platform to kind of say, what's going on here? Because you didn't see anybody else around you talking about or defending what had just happened in Israel. Do you feel like you paid a price for that in terms of the way you're perceived?
Thank you for bringing us back to the topic so eloquently, because I just went off on
No, you didn't go off.
I loved it.
You were great.
I loved it.
But so okay, let's set the stage. So October 7th, it was the day of my son's bar mitzvah, my youngest child, and I was certainly not a Jewish activist before that. I had been a Hebrew school dropout because I was a competitive tennis player, and also
Hebrew school is kind of boring.
Well, you know what? Now it's actually a huge regret. But at that time, it like went from 1 day to 3 days a week or something, and I was a competitive tennis player, so I couldn't do Hebrew school and tennis. My parents said, "Sure, just drop out of Hebrew school." Wasn't important to them. And my mom had been like kind of like a bitter yeshiva kid, was like, I'm not doing that to my kid.
Yes.
And her father had been a part-time rabbi, so she was kind of like the rebel.
That's like my dad.
Really?
Yeah, my grandfather was very religious, and my dad was like, screw this. Now my dad goes to Chabad every Saturday, and yes, but he didn't really push it.
It skips a generation, I feel like. And
yeah,
or maybe I guess he came back.
He came back. Now he's like super Jew.
Yeah. So I guess that didn't skip a generation. He would be very proud, I guess, your grandfather. Is he still alive?
Yes, he's not, but he definitely is like, yikes. Oh my God. Why do you say so much? But anyway, keep going.
So October 7th was his bar mitzvah. We really were not connected to understanding the gravity of what had happened that day. So it didn't really interfere with his party, to be quite honest. We didn't fully understand, and we were focused on the party. And then the next morning we woke up and understood the gravity of what had happened. And that at that point, I think I had like 30,000 followers on Instagram. Like I had like a nice following in the women's space. But I used to post like things like women's empowerment stuff. And I would post like my cute outfit at a speaking engagement, like things like that. And then I would have posted my son's bar mitzvah photos. And suddenly I started posting about Israel, thinking, okay, well, I'll do this until the grownups, the experts show up. And a few days later, I was waiting for them. They never came. And a few days after that, they didn't come. And so I was like, oh gosh, like people are now looking to me for news about what's happening in Israel. And I know so little. I hadn't been to Israel since I was bat mitzvah there. I mean, it was shameful.
No, I'd only been once.
Yeah.
I still have only been once.
Oh,
I've only been once too.
Okay.
I know.
I've been 3 times since October 7th.
I know. We actually have to do that.
You guys have to come.
I know.
Soon.
If you do another trip, we're coming.
Yes.
Yes.
But also
100%.
I just want to get you guys there even sooner than that. But yes. So I've sort of started reading a book a night, like reading voraciously, trying to become the person I needed to be, because I knew I couldn't fight anti-Semitism and fight for Israel if I knew nothing about it.
100%.
And I still don't pretend to be an expert, but I'm close to my 10,000 hours now, because it's been almost 3 years. And
we were just talking about
Malcolm
10,000
Gladwell.
hours.
Oh, so funny.
So I believe that.
How the universe.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really believe it. And so I'm constantly learning. I mean, every morning I start out, from the very beginning, listening to the Times of Israel daily briefing, which is like 19 minutes, really easy, digestible. And what I had needed at that moment was someone to sort of spoon feed me the news, and not just say like the Houthis in Yemen, but be like, hold on, how is that relevant to Israel?
Yes.
Like really give the background of all of it. Even just a couple of days ago, I did a video about voting and like flipping the House and flipping the Senate. And I think we take for granted people not knowing, what does that mean? If you're not involved in politics every day, you might hear that and be like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, am I allowed to curse on this?
Oh my God.
Yes. Oh my God.
I curse so much.
Okay.
But I have to say, like, Samantha, I didn't have a big following at all, but I was on Instagram, and I remember like for a minute, actually it was my sister-in-law and brother-in-law's wedding, October 7th.
Okay. Wow.
So the same day. And like, I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And then slowly, as like the night wore off and I was at home, like in the hotel, and I was looking, and I was like, oh my God, it was starting to kind of sink in. And I remember for like a moment that next day, like Kylie Jenner posted an Israeli flag, and like it was a minute, and then it was all gone.
All gone.
And then even before Israel lifted a finger, everybody was against us. Like it was somehow resistance, and it was amazing. And I just remember being like nauseated and horrified that how could anybody not see who's the good guy and who's the bad guy here?
Well, we didn't know that we weren't just in a war about like, that the Gazans had entered Israel and attacked in such a horrific, brutal way, we really didn't know we were also in a propaganda war that had
100%.
started over 20 years ago. And we were, completely caught off guard.
Why do you think we missed it?
Well, I think that's the whole nature of the propaganda war is it's so
Brilliant.
subtle and it's insidious and you don't even realize it's there. And so if you look at like Columbia's Students for Justice in Palestine account, they had not posted in months before October 7th. Like it was a dormant Instagram account. And then they suddenly posted. They were tipped off. They knew it was going to happen. Like all of them, they were all involved.
Oh,
and so this is all tied to the Muslim Brotherhood and tied to Iran and their proxies and Qatar
and Black Panthers in America and
and actually what I found really horrifying, and I think what kind of raised my alarm bells with the schools my kids were at, is my son was head of the
Jewish Affinity
Group at the time, and he was also shaken by what had happened, and he wanted to issue a statement as the president of that club, and he sent it to his advisor at school, and they said don't write anything. And in it he had written like that there had been a bloody attack in Israel perpetrated by Hamas terrorists, and they said do not. And then they said we'll talk about it when we get to school. And there was no school Monday, and then Tuesday when school resumed, I don't remember.
Right, it was
why.
Columbus Day.
Okay, so there's no school. Tuesday morning, before you can even have a conversation with the school, there was an email sent from the head of the upper school, the head psychologist, saying that our hearts go out to the Israelis and the Gazans, and that
By the way,
this is a very difficult situation.
Actually, I think you're missing the days because that's how we bonded, Eva. We were both at the same school. I got nothing as a lower school.
No, it was the upper school, but I'm saying that's what came to the upper school. And that's when I thought something's really wrong. And the second data point, which really I found so... I remember shaking as I was walking through New York City listening, was Angela Buckdahl's sermon that Friday night, because I'm a member of Central Synagogue. She said all the right things, that it was a just war, it was a necessary war, but she said how disappointed and how
re-explain what you mean by the just war.
No, that Israel picking up arms to fight back. Okay. It was a just war, but that she had gotten together all of the clergy in New York City, the imams, the priests, the rabbis, and that they could not agree on a set of language to issue a joint statement.
I just can't.
It's horrifying. I know. That's how we bonded.
Yeah. Well, thank God you did. And I think I seriously applaud every single person who's in their community, like you guys, who made a difference since then, because we need all hands on deck. And going back to the politics, what alarms me most is people feeling like they need to, for so many politicians, but even university heads and heads of corporations and rabbis and whatever, anyone who says in the same breath as talking about anti-Semitism is talking about Islamophobia.
Oh my God, I can't.
It's a made up term and it's garbage.
Yes. It's actually not made up. It actually is real. Well, like, of course we have Islamophobia.
I have Islamophobia because here's the deal. No.
But sorry, you get what I'm saying?
It's
not the same as anti-Semitism.
Sam Harris said
you have radical Islamophobia. Let's be clear.
No.
We all have a phobia of radical Islam.
When you talk about Islam, it's a set of ideas. It's an ideology. When has it ever been unfair to criticize an ideology that at the root wants to kill people, that spreads hate?
It believes in non-believers should not be alive. And they also, the issue I think I have is like, when you think of other religions, your life and what you do here matters. Right? It's not only about the afterlife. And I think that is scary when you're dealing with not all of them, but a group of people who don't value life.
Right.
And
but all I'm saying is like,
I agree with you.
We're allowed to criticize ideas. Is when people like
you can criticize Judaism. That's the Talmud.
I had the clergy at my child's school say like, we can't talk about anti-Semitism without Islamophobia. And I was like, I really respectfully disagree with you, because again, like we can criticize any ideas we want in America, like not liking a person for an irrational, for a rational reason is racist, but not liking a set of ideas and being able to articulate logically why.
If you disagree
what's wrong with that?
Like, I'm thinking of was it the Charlie in Paris? I forget the cartoon.
Yeah, the cartoon.
And then you get killed. Like it is the only ideology where you do criticize and someone will come after you. Because in Judaism, actually, we love questioning and criticizing our own beliefs.
Regardless of whether you think it's radical Islam you're against or you're against Islam, it's irrelevant at this point, because at that point, post October 7th,
it was about anti-Semitism.
We're being hunted, right? And even today, what's happened is that anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism is the newest form of anti-Semitism. And it kills me that so many Jewish people are afraid to say they love Israel. Why are we not entitled to a homeland? It's our homeland.
I'm wearing my a coin.
Do you think it's in part because people think Israel is, or people think Jews are, or Judaism is a religion, not a peoplehood?
But honestly,
it's an ethno-religion. However, that's not what it is. It's, again, this propaganda campaign that intended to separate the Jewish people into Zionists and anti-Zionists. And it's working. Mm-hmm. And I do want to say that part of what we have to do as parents and as people with a platform is to educate people on why this is not a controversial topic. If you are Jewish, you deserve a homeland that is the only piece of land in the world where Jewish people are governing and in charge of their autonomy.
There's 42 or 52 Muslim countries, and there's one tiny Jewish thing. At the end of the day, people hate Jews. What is most upsetting, and I agree with you, is when Jewish people actually they actually believe that anti-Zionism is okay.
But it's our job. I'm very concerned about the young people in our lives.
That's what I was thinking.
One of my proudest achievements as a mom is having raised 3 Zionists. And
amazing.
That is something we have. And it's not just going to be because you celebrate Hanukkah with them and give them a present every night. It's going to be because they understand the value of Israel. It's taking your kids to Israel. It's being able to show them Israel's not a desert. Look at it. It's a place with a thriving nightlife.
First of all,
it's a place with
it was a desert and we made it bloom.
Right.
Holy crap.
It's literally a miracle in general. But I really believe that so many people are just uneducated. They're not.
And can I just say also one thing, sorry, that really upset me? That my son's old school, there was the head of the Jewish affinity group. And we were in a conversation and I asked him and I said, I just want you to make sure, when you are facing anti-Semitism, that anti-Zionism is the same thing. And he's like, I don't agree with that. I don't think being an anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic. And I almost wanted to vomit. And then the other moms kind of were like, okay, Caroline, don't be political. I'm like, this is not political.
And the whole, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Bullshit. You know what? Sometimes you are and sometimes you aren't. But nobody is going around saying, I love Italians. I just hate Italy and wish they didn't exist. And that is what it comes down to. It's like, if Israel 100%. Had the word Jewishville, then it would be much more clear that people are being anti-Semitic when they're saying they're anti-Israel. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. No one's saying, I really love the Brits. I just wish Britain didn't, have their government and defend themselves. That's just BS.
And what's a good way? I actually always use this as an example. And I think that's funny, I used Italy, is when I try to explain or to my kids or just somebody who really doesn't understand, I'm like, think of Jews as Italians. Okay. Some of us grew up in Italy, speaking Italian, eating Italian food all the time. And others grew up in the diaspora. We didn't grow up in Italy. We grew up in New York, but we still love Italian food. We don't understand, Italian, but it's still we feel a draw. We feel pulled to it. And when we go there, we're part of it. That's what Israel is. It's we're not living there, but we're from there.
I think what it really comes down to is people being able to say, I'm going to ruffle feathers. And if you are so worried about upsetting everyone with your language and not including everyone, again, you're not able to make a difference in the world. And our young people have to be brought up not just to please everyone and not just to be polite to everyone, but to be confident in their beliefs and who they are and
know who the enemies are. And also know when, I think for me too, is when right after October 7th, I was just sending supplies to Israel. I was almost in that fight or flight mode. Yeah. It was I couldn't even process. Then when I started to process it, I don't want to blame it on your generation of parents, but it's there was, not you guys, but a lot of fear and of Jews not understanding where they stood in this DI kind of oppressor framework of Jews kind of became the enemy, that we became to some people the most oppressed.
Well, I'd like to address
the oppressors.
I'd like to address this because it was, I think, as my kids and your kids, Sam, were growing up, that DEI really took hold in our schools because I don't remember it when my 20-year-old was in lower school, but it started to, you started to see the administrative
we had the woke generation.
roles.
Like we were in the sweet spot
And
of it.
what I would say is I think one of the things that really worked against us, because I was one of those people who had some fear of saying certain things, because I think when it became very race-based, I think one of the worst things someone could be is racist. And so when fear of asking questions that seem very logical to you could be misconstrued and perceived as racist, we were in a cancel culture where there was no room for a mistake or a question.
I really believe this was part of the Iranian propaganda campaign, was to divide the Jews and the blacks, because
100%.
Jews and blacks have always been super
I
tight.
agree.
Like I grew up with a black godfather. I was always like believed, my parents like marched.
Look at the
in
civil
the
rights movement. Yes.
Like I always believed that we were like joined at the hip, and there was a lot that was being done to separate us. And I happened to, before October 7th, be a DEI speaker. Like I was, because women were considered DEI. It covered every minority. It covered except for the Jews. And that's the one thing we did not realize. And when I would go around the country speaking at Fortune 500 companies to, that was organized through their DEI groups, it was about women in the workforce, and women were considered DEI. It never in my wildest dreams would have occurred to me that Jews weren't part of it, because we are such a tiny little population.
You know what it is people, and I love to do this to non-Jews, even Jews. I'm like, how many Jews do you think there are? And they'll be like 100 million. People, because for our group, we make up a huge percentage of Nobel Prize winners. We are CEOs. I mean, we are hardworking. Education's important. So there's a false, I think, concept. People don't understand that we are the percentage of like, they think that they're more of us.
We have a disproportionate amount of success, impact, etc. But I think
that's because we work hard.
I don't know if it's DEI. I think your point you're making, which I think is another big issue, is we live now in this world of, we're becoming more populist because the American dream is damaged, whether it's a perception or reality. More people are, suffering and not able to live better than their parents once did. You have the surplus elite, who many of them are the ones voting for Mamdani, El Sayed, and they're the ones out there kind of dissatisfied that they went to nice colleges, they got the 4-year degree. They are kind of the privileged, but they're not being
in those
successful.
Colleges. Part of the propaganda was they, people from Qatar, whoever was giving money, was like, okay, we're going to be silent, but we're going to pick the head of the history department. We're going to pick this teacher who I think slowly was feeding 100%. That Jews were like these 100% vicious enemies.
But I think people now are looking at fairness. They don't want anyone to have, they don't like billionaires. They don't like Jews because
capitalism.
we're successful.
I mean, listen, like the Brooklyn liberals, it's an elitist ridiculousness.
It's retarded.
I mean, look at Al Sayed. Like he was not supported by black people in Michigan. They supported Haley Stevens.
Yeah.
Right.
So they knew what was up, right? They were smarter than those absurd white liberals who voted for El Sayed.
Same in New York City with Mamdani.
Exactly. So I think that it's really important that we realize, like, one of the most essential things is to educate our young people on why they're voting and who they're voting. If you say to a young person, why are you voting for Mamdani? Even a young Jewish person who works at Goldman Sachs might say they're voting for Mamdani. Why? And you say to them, they'll say, well, I mean, I care about all people. Great. This is going to totally fuck up all people because he knows nothing about the economy. He's never held a job. He doesn't even know. He's never balanced a budget. This guy is a disaster. He is not going to help people prosper. And so much of this now.
Does it work when you do that? Because I have had conversations with many people and I find two things. One, the kind of Trump Republican side is so unpalatable. And two, there is a value, a positive value assigned to being progressive. Like in society, you are morally better if you are a Democrat.
Look, I mean, this is the whole propaganda thing. They're so brilliant at marketing, right? Like if you get to college, right, and you're like, I don't have any friends, and your roommate says, you want to go to a free blah, blah, blah rally, free Palestine? They don't know what Palestine is because it's a made up place.
Yeah,
sure, that sounds fun. Like free Palestine, I'll go. Like I believe in freedom. Like all the words that they use, they've just taken over buzzwords that mean that no one in the encampments knew what they were there for.
But I think what we have to educate on is you can be critical of the Israeli government, but that's different than being anti-Zionist.
Right, but it is absolutely absurd. Nobody says, I hate Trump, so now I hate America. most people don't care that much. Most people are in the 80% in the middle.
Yep.
We're in the 10% of people who spend every minute thinking about this, and we're talking about it every day. We're reading.
You're
the news.
welcome, Jews.
But I really think it's much more important to think about the middle and educating people. And one of the things that I've become so passionate about is I see a lot of people in my comments always saying like, now we just have to vote red. Okay. And I used to be a Democrat. I am no longer a Democrat.
Same.
I always say I'm not a party girl. And I think nobody should be a party guy or a party girl.
I was never a party girl.
We have to be candidate by candidate.
100%.
And it is so essential. You don't want to give your allegiance to a party who is not going to be loyal to you. And even yesterday, I spoke at the summit where it was an anti-Semitism summit where Randy Fine, the congressman from Florida, spoke. And he's a Republican. And he was even saying, do not blindly vote Republican, because Tucker Carlson is on the Republican side.
Of course.
Do not blindly vote, Republican, because like, John Fetterman and Richie Torres.
Of course.
So it's the news,
It's really, really important that every person understands that they are a candidate by candidate. If you are Jewish, or you care about the survival of the Jewish people, or you care about the Jewish community, you now have to vote for the person who's going to stand up for your survival.
Right, which is Israel, protecting Israel.
It has to be our first issue.
100%.
A couple of men actually have gotten into my DMs in the last couple of days and said, I am trying to convince my sister or my wife.
It's the abortion stuff that trips people up.
Right now, I am throwing away the feminist side of me to say, we need to be in favor of anyone who is supporting us. Now, by the way, we can't blindly think Trump is supporting us, because he is sometimes and he's not sometimes.
I agree.
He's in bed with
1,000%.
Qatar. Qatar is our enemy. So
I agree.
Again, like he's our friend.
He's our best option.
It sounds like you're saying similar to like back in the day when people said like abortion is my one and only priority. For you now, it's Israel. I think for a lot of people, it's been hard. They can say in retrospect, like even Sam Harris, who's very liberal, says in retrospect, and he really was anti-Trump, pro-Kamala, and he says in retrospect, as a Jew, he feels very grateful that it's Trump, not Kamala.
I'm with Sam Harris. I voted for Kamala. I took my daughter to the convention, okay? I was all in for women's rights. And the party of women's rights at that time, and still today, unfortunately, is the Democrats. However, what I now say to people is, thank God Elizabeth Warren isn't any no longer my person. Thank God all these people, Kamala, who I cannot stand. These people have become a just such a disappointment to me and such a disaster. And I really believe that if you look at the people that they think they're supporting that are liberal, those people are giving them lip service. But do you really think El Sayed is going to promote women's rights? Like,
no.
Are you crazy?
Look at Islam.
Absolutely not.
Look at the religion that he goes by. Exactly. Are you kidding? They'll cover up your face.
That's what's so crazy is that these people are actually supporting candidates now who are completely anti-women. So
anti-America.
What I've said to these men who've been contacting me saying my sister and my, Anne is worried about abortion, whatever, or their wife, I always say, like, look at these candidates. These are not women's rights supporters. Right now, our first issue has to be Israel. Are you going to support the Jewish homeland?
Yep.
And are you going to support Jewish people? Okay. Yes. If you are, then I hope that that person has my values in all of these other places.
Right.
But they're not mutually exclusive. A lot of the people that are pro-Israel are also pro-women's rights, pro-equality. I mean,
of course.
After all, Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East. It's the only place
they have the biggest gay pride parade.
The only place that treats women with respect in the Middle East is Israel. So
we can all go to Israel to get an abortion if we needed one. I'm sorry, it's true. But I have friends also who are Jewish, but they're like, I can't because, abortion is so important to me and Roe versus Wade. To go, if you're going to be killed and there's another Holocaust, God forbid, who cares about an abortion? It's number one. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We are at that place of survival.
It's just
people don't get it.
I'm trying to see all the sides because I've been in politics my whole life.
It's like survival.
I do see that some people are saying, okay, MAGA people are taking away my health care for my family. Like my wife has cancer. What am I like? I think that we have to also realize to a lot of people, their issue seems just as important as our issue. Right. And so that's why it's not black and white. But for Jews, we have to first vote Jews first and then everything else second. Because right now it's a fight for our survival. I think the climate is very similar to the pre-World War II climate.
Oh, 100%. The hardest part for me is having family members who think that because, they're so anti-Trump, or they're gay and they believe like, oh, we have to be in the pro-Palestinian group because it's like all the groups are together. They're morons. Like, what do I do? I have a cousin I can't even speak to anymore.
Well, I'll also say that we have always been achievement oriented, and you grow up and you send your kids to the top schools, and then you send them to the top colleges, and you want them to be successful, and you want to be successful. And I will never forget that when I heard David Harris Jr. speak. Do you know him? He wrote his latest
He
book.
was there last night. Yeah.
Okay.
He spoke with me.
And he stood up, and it was an intimate group in New York City. And he said, everybody in New York City who's a Jew, who's not like on board with the fact that we are in an all-out war and America is the eighth front, needs to go to hospital for special surgery and get a spinal transplant. He was like, stop thinking it's more important to send your kids to X private school.
Yep.
And he's like, you do not give anyone your money, your time, your endorsement, unless they are going to be pro you.
I missed my Harvard reunion for this exact reason. I felt totally uncomfortable going to my college reunion because Harvard has been so anti-Semitic and such a disappointment.
Yes.
Why isn't everyone doing what we're doing? Right? Because we are all sacrificing something to be there. And that's the number one question I get is like, how can I make a difference? And every single person, first of all, we need all hands on deck.
Yes.
100%.
Like, you don't need a social media following to make a difference or a podcast to make a difference. You could make a difference by seeing that one little thing. Like, there is nothing too small to fight because the small fights become the big fights. So if your school is doing something, to your point, if the Jewish Association at your school is saying all lives matter, like, you got to speak up. Like, you can make such a difference in the smallest ways. And so one of the things I'm always doing is like looking for those people, even the non-Jews in other areas who are making a difference. And what is it about them that's allowing them to use their voice and speak up? Because we can learn from them. And
And given your platform, and given that you had, a nonpartisan, non-political, platform prior to October 7th, you were able to reach a lot of non-Jews, because I often worry we're all in an echo chamber and that we're all talking to ourselves and to each other, and we're like sitting on this sinking Titanic. But have you found that you, since October 7th, have been able to grow your ability to connect with people who are allies, not Jews? And I'm curious how to do that, because that's one of the things I think we talk about a lot, and it's harder.
It's such a great question. I happen to have a lot of non-Jewish followers, and I'm very proud of that. And I think part of that is I have a lot of non-Jewish people saying, you're where I get my information. And nothing makes me happier, obviously.
That's amazing.
Because we want to get out of the echo chamber. I think part of it is also paying attention to, like, I've been at conferences. I remember early on, I was being honored somewhere, and I brought a bunch of my friends, and a couple of them were not Jewish. And one of the speakers got up and started talking on and on about how we're the chosen people.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, you're not winning over people by saying that. Like, it's just, I think it's also just being self-aware of, like, we're an inclusive people. We really are. And going around speaking only to Jews and only in language that makes Jewish people feel included is really excluding people that would be your allies. So I think so much of it is being aware of ourselves, and
I love that,
and talking in a way where it's like, we want you to come on board. We, like, even at the Israeli Day Parade, I marched with the Christians for Israel group. Like, I think that the more we can cross the aisle to allies, look, we were just talking about my college reunion. One of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me in my life, I don't even know if they know how deeply this affected me, but I said to my roommates, I've never missed a reunion. Okay. I was like so close with my Harvard friends, and still am. By the way, it was such a different era that it never even occurred to me that none of my college roommates were Jewish. Like, it was not even a thing.
All my best friends from college, most are not Jewish.
Yeah. And it was like never a thing, right? It was
They're
like
my chosen family, and it doesn't matter.
And so two of my college roommates and I, we always go to the reunion together. And this reunion, I said to them, there's no way I can go because of the anti-Semitism at Harvard. It was right after October 7th. And I was like, it was the June of 2024. I was like, I can't go. But one of our guy friends was having a party at his house in like Weston, Massachusetts, like outside, on Thursday night. And so I said, I will go to that party with you guys. I'll go to Boston, go to that party just so I can see our friends and not give up our friends or our network, and then I'm going to skip the reunion. And they also skipped the reunion out of solidarity.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Really amazing.
See, I do feel like when you are someone like you who is just, you stay true, people see that and they want to be around it. And I wish more people would do that. You know, I think that was also one of the saddest things of October 7th is we all put up the black square when it was, you know, Black Lives Matter, and we stood with every group, and we realized like not even our own people were standing with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can just be true and be someone people look up to, I think that they'll be attracted to that.
Honestly, when I was researching you, I thought of Queen Esther, because we did this empowered parents class through the AJC, Caroline and I, and Laura Shaw Frank, who's taught
unbelievable,
spoke about Queen Esther and how she saved so many Jews through, you know, her position in the palace, or, you know, in the court. And there's an amazing quote that says, "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this," meaning your entire career led you to this.
Yeah, I feel that way. I really do.
But don't you feel like the universe like always shows you where, I mean, also, by the way, on top of this, I just have to point out that you also lost your house in the Palisades fire, and you continued to advocate. I remember before I knew you, I remember you posting from a hotel room, and it was
your car, I think,
or something, but it was like you were still posting about Israel stuff and Jewish advocacy. It was a hotel room, and I was like so impressed. I was like, this woman lost her house, she lost whatever, and this is where her heart is. And like I have chills thinking about it. I was blown away by someone who your courage. You just were able to like compartmentalize, and it was amazing. I don't know how you did that.
Oh, well, you know, I think that when something like that happens, first of all, I was lucky enough to have gone to Israel before our house burned down. Like it was like a few months earlier. And I know it sounds, I'm not trying to sound cheesy, but like when I am in Israel, when I leave Israel, I feel like I could like conquer the world, because they're the most resilient people.
Mm-hmm.
They'll literally be running to a bomb shelter at 3 p.m. and they'll still make their drinks meeting at 6 o'clock. Like, whereas like in LA, people will cancel if it's drizzling. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it is just a completely different world, and they're just so resilient. And that's much more my style. Like I, before October 7th, was working on a book that I've now like switched into a post October 7th book that will include it. But like, it was called Yes and Go, because my philosophy in life is like, say yes to everything you can, unless it's going to hurt you or your family, and go and just do the thing.
Well, thank you for saying yes to us.
Just, yeah, of course.
Oh my God, that's amazing advice.
Like, yes and go. And for this, for activism, I really believe it's such a pivotal part of it, which is so the real story is I had this really big speaking engagement at the Lion of Judah annual conference, which was going to be in Atlanta. It was 1 week, or I guess like 60 days after we lost our house and our community and all of our things in the Palisades fire. And I sort of said to myself, like they called and were like, "Oh, I assume you're canceling." And I was like, "I don't cancel on things." So my goal in my head was if I could get my family settled in a temporary home with a signed lease for a rental home, then I could go. Like that was in my head. So the day we found out we lost our home, we were at a hotel in LA. We found out we lost our home, and it, like not just our home, but like every single thing. It looked like Pompeii. Like, you know, over 6,000 houses were gone, and like all of my brother's house was gone. Like all of our friends' homes were gone. My daughter, who was at college at the time, said all of her the place where she had every childhood memory was just burned, gone. And it was like an impossible thing to get our head around. And so that day, though, we started looking at houses to rent, because everyone else was sort of like paralyzed, and we were all fighting for the same small inventory. And I knew I had to get my family settled. Like I had 2 kids still in school, and it was really important. And we sort of, I leaned on the Jewish community. So I was with this new friend of mine. She has a Instagram you might follow called the Persian Jewess.
Oh yes.
Oh my God.
Love her.
Yeah. And she happens to be a real estate attorney, and her mom was a real estate broker. And so they took me out to see houses that day.
Amazing.
And we saw like 14 houses over the next 24 hours. And so she really helped me. And then this other woman, who her name is Jordana Rubin, she called me. I'd only like met her one time before that. And she called me and said, "I heard you guys lost your house. You have to come stay in our guest house for as long as you need." It was like a gift from heaven. And we said yes and moved in the next day. And so by the time I went to the conference, we had a signed lease and we had this temporary home until we could move into the new place. And so
Yes
achieve
and
those
go.
goals. Yes and go.
I'm like in awe right now.
But I did arrive with an empty suitcase, and a friend of mine, Eliza Licht,
she's also amazing. She's the redhead.
It's like the whole
amazing.
Jewish community had was literally why I got through the fire so smoothly in the beginning. So Eliza had used to work at Alice and Olivia, long story, but she actually got the job when she was at my book party that Stacey Bennett hosted years and years ago. And she was their head of marketing. And so she called the person who was in charge of marketing at that moment and told the story. And when I got to Atlanta, they opened the store early for me, and they clothed me for the whole event.
That's amazing.
So it's just kind of all of the things. And then Rachel Schnee, who you mentioned that you've had on this podcast.
Yep.
She
love you, Rachel.
I love her too. And she came over to me, and I didn't know her before that. And she was like, "Did you lose all your jewelry?" I'm like, "Yeah, I lost everything." And she's like, "Okay, well, you need to some bling." And she came over and gave me this ring, and a necklace. She's just, anyway, it was
she is a special
beautiful
woman.
And that's just how people show up for one another in times of need. And honestly, I always say it's at the community level. We can talk about government and how dysfunctional it is, but I don't think we need government. I'm a libertarian, and I do feel
need a little government.
No, it's not that we don't need government, but it all starts at the bottom, because all of this dysfunction, within communities, if you're helping your neighbor in their time of need,
no, you know what it starts with?
Being kind to
being
everyone,
true to who you are, being a person who is not a bystander.
Correct.
That is what it is. No one is fortunate enough to be a bystander. We should all be cilantro, okay? Some people will hate you, but who cares? The people who love you are going to keep dipping in that guacamole. We have to do the story about Roger Waters. I'm sorry, husband. Jeremy, if you were here, you might not have approved of this behavior, but it's Roger Waters, right? So Roger Waters of Pink Floyd is one of the notorious anti-Semites. Yep. He makes me want to throw up and just poke his eyes out. But anyway, we were in Bridgehampton, and I saw him at a restaurant, and oops, I just spilled water. And I didn't, as I was walking past him, and I was with my kids. So I'm like, okay, I'm with my kids. I'm not going to get at it on him in front of them, but I still want to show them that we're not going to let people this get away with it. Good. So we were across the street, and I was like, that guy hates Israel. And they're like, what? I'm like, yep, Roger Waters. And they're like, Roger Waters, you sicko. Fuck you, Palestine. And I was like, fuck you, Palestine. And it was so empowering.
It was very cathartic.
I don't know if he heard, but the fact that, I don't know if that was a right parenting decision, but I was my kids were so angered. My daughter's obsessed with Israel. And I don't know if it was the right thing to do. Well, but it felt good in the moment.
I mean,
it was probably the wrong thing.
The fact that you're showing your kids to use their voice, that's to me the best parenting lesson possible out of that.
Oh, they use their voice.
It's using your voice, and most people don't. I remember a few years ago, you can Google, and it was in page 6. So I chased Steve Bannon into an elevator.
Stop.
And was basically I hope you get what you deserve. And his bodyguards came after me. And because they were in the elevator with me. I was the only person in the elevator with Steve Bannon and 10 bodyguards. And I chased him into the Regency elevator just so I could say that to him. I hadn't thought about what was going to happen next, which is his bodyguards tried to do something to me, and he stopped them. I mean, it was ridiculous, not necessarily my smartest
sometimes
move.
You have to.
But I was always speaking up for everything, so it was just natural that I would speak up for the Jews.
Yes.
And so I think teaching your kids to speak up when there's an injustice to another child or something at school. I think when we teach our kids to be afraid of authority, then they grow up afraid to use their voice.
And we did say something positive, Eva. Hold on. So my husband doesn't hate us. We also were Israel's the best country. It's the only place in the Middle East you could be gay. So we did scream that. So it wasn't just Palestine's, which is not a real place, was terrible. But I tried to put a positive spin on it.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm proud to be on this couch with two incredible women who I admire and look up to. And I hope we can inspire more, not just women, but men and young people to use your voice. You don't have to be a Jew. Just be a normal person who knows right from wrong. Be on the good side of history.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to lose friends. Because look, we found each other posts. I have made so many awesome women friends
who share your values.
Yeah. And so, you know what there was in my last book, there was a friendship expert, and she said that every 6 years, the average woman loses half of her friends, which is a shocking statistic. except if you think that
it kind of
you
makes
have,
sense.
Yeah, you have convenient friends. Like I have friends when you're newlyweds, you have friends when you have kids, whatever. You're in
and
college
the older
together.
you get, the more you come into your own and kind of
Well,
don't give a
hopefully
shit.
you
But
evolve.
you keep the friends that are
Yes.
most like-minded with you, and not in terms of always agreeing with you, but the ones who are going to speak up for what's right, the ones who are not bystanders. If you're a wallflower, you're probably not going to be our friend. But if you are someone who speaks out for what's right, like there's a lot of friendships waiting out there for you. So
I
don't
agree.
be afraid
And
of,
by the way,
those old
they're
ones.
so much more interesting than the bystander wallflowers because like you won't even remember their name in a week. It's true. Don't you think? Like I don't want to have any friends who have like, ugh, you hate those vanilla people.
Yeah, she's coming to Miami, people. So, be if
they
you
won't-
are someone
they
who
won't
speaks
be-
out,
they
if you're
won't be
someone who
able to
speaks
miss
out,
her.
you have a new friend to
Woohoo!
invite to
I'm
your
going to be
next
covered
event.
in Jewish
Yes.
stars and Israeli flags. Before we end, is there a book that one of the early books that you read to educate yourself that you feel somebody who's not really, who's in that middle ground of we can inspire, that could be their starting point?
It could be our book of the week.
Oh, okay. Gosh, there's so many. If it's a book of the week, there's a book I'm obsessed with. It's called God Was Right. It's by Mark Gerson. It's literally the best book I've ever read in my life.
Wow.
It's a self-help book based on the Torah.
Amazing.
And you don't need to know anything about the Torah to read it. And it's so good that like, it's almost like Freakonomics meets the Torah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay.
So good.
We'll put it in the show
Yeah,
notes.
I think also As a Jew by Sarah Hurwitz. I don't know if you read that.
I haven't read that one
That's
yet.
a really good book for somebody who kind of wants to dip their toe in it and is coming from, I would say, the more liberal end of politics.
Okay.
She was Michelle Obama's speechwriter. I feel like that's a really good starter book too.
Maybe I'll have to read that for sure. I also loved reading BB's autobiography. Really good. I learned a ton about
He was so
Israeli
hot
history.
when he was young. Sorry.
I didn't even notice that, but
yeah, I'm sorry. He was. He was.
But anyway, but whether you like him or dislike him, you learn a lot about history by reading about who he was. I think it's really important. And then Dara Horn has an incredible book. I think it's called People Love Dead Jews.
Yes.
An excellent book. And by the way, Noah Tishby's book, Israel, is just such a good primer. I think it's the first book everyone should read.
Oh, I love all this. I'm just going to add a fiction piece because we're talking about so many good books. I read The Netanyahus, which was fabulous. I gifted it to Caroline. She can't even find it to read it.
Well, because you gifted it to me in the web.
But no, The Netanyahus, the author's name is escaping me, but it's basically a fictionalized account of when Bibi and his two brothers and their parents came to America because the father had a job interview at Yale University with Harold Bloom. And the person who wrote the book learned this story from Harold Bloom, and he fictionalized it. It's basically just at any kind of, Northeast college. And it is hilarious. And it is definitely a fun window into what it was like being a Jew during that time at an elite institution in New England.
Great. I want to read that for sure. And then also Lisa Barr, who's like an author and just like a huge advocate. She has a great novel that is like, it's called The Goddess of Warsaw. Which
I loved it.
Yeah, so good.
I read
great.
it too.
I loved it.
Yeah,
But
Caroline gave
you
it
felt
to me.
it was like a Holocaust beach read, right? Is that the one?
That's a very good description.
Yeah.
I
really
literally
good,
was like, Caroline's like, I only read Holocaust books. She's like, I'm going to give you my favorite
that's
one.
Genius.
So she gives me The Goddess of Warsaw. I'm like, I didn't know it was possible, but I'm learning about a new genre.
It's
Holocaust
hilarious.
beach reads.
Oh God.
I know, but it kind of is, right?
It is. It's so good.
It's so good.
By the way, you guys, speaking of, I'm going to lose one of the friends I do have because I'm late for lunch.
Oh my God.
So with
Oh my
that,
God.
Sam, thank you so much. This has been the
We're
most.
sorry. What's her name so we can say sorry? Allison, I'm so sorry. We're really sorry.
Sam, this has been the most wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for giving us your time and
Thank
your
you.
brilliant insights. And we're so happy to now have you in our community.
Yep.
Thanks so much, guys.
And with that,
Mic
mic drop.